But Ricky Flex, you obviously are a massive Johnny Manziel fan. Were you as excited as I was to see this documentary on one of the most electric college football players of all time?
This is one of those docs, like you said, that we always wanted to see, right? And the Florida Gators is another one of those. Untold's done a couple like this, such as like Mouse and the Palace, where they get everyone involved, like not just a documentary about the events or a story, but you actually get the people. And like Manti Te'o, you got Manti Te'o, and you got the AD from Notre Dame, you got everybody involved, right? You got the other person, right? Johnny Football, you get Johnny Football, and you get his family, you get his agent, you get all these different important people that were attached to Johnny Football, and the AD of AM, and so on. So this is just one of those stories that needed to be told, that everyone wants to hear, and from the people that you want to hear it from.
Yeah. So like we've talked so much about Manziel from the past decade, and the media has talked so much about Manziel, but hearing it from Manziel, his perspective, what was going on the other end, right? The personalization of this story, that's what everyone was looking for. And I gotta be honest, Ricky Flex, I wanted this bad, right? I wanted to see it as like when I was in college. That's when Johnny Manziel was in college, and that's when I was most into college football. And I was invested in Johnny Manziel. Like I wanted to see him succeed. I wanted to see him get drafted #1 overall. I wanted to see him become like a Pro Bowl starting quarterback in the NFL. But it obviously all comes crumbling down. But after watching this, I kind of wish we never got the documentary. As weird as that sounds, I would be complacent if we had just the YouTube highlights, just the Bama Texas A&M game. That's all I needed. And I never thought I would say that after the documentary had came out, but it was a sad, tragic story. And I thought less of Johnny Manziel after watching it. I didn't feel happy for him. He might be in a more satisfied like spot in his life, right? Maybe more fulfilled than he was when he was living it up in the NFL and then going to rehab and whatnot, and then failing epically before moving on to, I think it was arena football or it was CFL, whatever it was. I came away from watching this saying, Johnny Manziel is a dick. And I kind of lost respect after watching it, after being a fan of him. I think if you didn't like Johnny Manziel, you would like the documentary. If you loved him, you thought less of him. What did you think of the documentary?
So I thought the documentary was good. I don't think it's on the level of Manti Te'o, but it was because we knew a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think what the problem with this doc was, yes, I love seeing Johnny Manziel highlights. Yes, like I like seeing this story be told, but like at the same time, it didn't go knee deep. It didn't go deeper into things that we want. Like I think we wanted more of. Like what is he doing right now? Which is like kind of nothing because he was in the indoor football league. That famous like, oh, he was smoking a cig or whatever outside after a touchdown throw or something. That was like last year. We don't really know what he's doing now. And the money behind the house that he built, basically the College Station, 12th man, new stadium, the whole community around A&M, everything. He basically built it. I kind of wanted to hear more besides just money figures being thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yes, I did love the montages. They showed all the videos that we've seen. They showed like all the major plot points, like all the arrests, the rehab stints, the girlfriend, the great autograph story, which is great. It had the great headlines, like how the family oil money was fake. The fake Combine hospital story. It had like those headline grabs that you love to see, like clips on social media. But I just wish they kind of like went a little deeper into like what he's doing now, and maybe a little bit more into like, oh, the actual monetary, like how that monetary value that he created, like stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I would have liked a lot more about, rather than just showing the college highlights, like it'd be great to hear from his college teammates. Like, how could we not have like Mike Evans like potentially on here, a dynamic duo for when those two were playing together at Texas A&M? Like Kevin Sumlin, I'm wondering what that relationship is like. Head coach at Texas A&M, how like because Johnny Football basically made Kevin Sumlin a household name for college football coaches, and he hasn't had any success upon the departure of Johnny Football. He's gone on to coach other different programs. He was at University of Arizona. I don't think he's there anymore. He might be, but Johnny Football was such a big deal and made an impact on Texas A&M to such an extent. But yes, we get him getting inducted into their Hall of Fame. And yes, he's like proclaiming how much like his jersey's being sold and what he means to the people. But it's good to hear more from just like this no-name radio broadcaster or this low-level TV commentator. Then like I want to hear from the actual people on the field who knew Johnny more intimately, people who were at those parties with Johnny Manziel. Right? I don't want to hear just from these college friends. It was really shocking and really interesting when they went into the autographs, how he makes like over $100,000 through those autographs and how he's trying to stick it to the NCAA. I think that's a really popular stance to have as a former college athlete who was not a part of the NIL. People want to take their shots at the NCAA, call them this criminal organization that they didn't get to profit off of their own name. But that's not what I think of with Johnny Manziel. I want to hear about more of his attitude and how he was at Texas A&M. And we kind of just get a little glimpse of that. And then it goes into the draft with Eric Burkhart, his agent, and the chaos around that, which is also fascinating deep dive. But I'm here for Johnny Football. Where does he become Johnny Football? A&M.
Yeah, I think to kind of play devil's advocate, yes, I would have liked to see a teammate, especially with the frat culture he talked about. Like his frat was the football team, and we didn't have any football players. That is kind of odd. But then just to play devil's advocate, the Manti Te'o doc didn't have any teammates, just the high school teammates, similar to Johnny Manziel.
But the thing about that, it was more important to hear from Manti Te'o in my eyes than Johnny Football. It is important to hear from Johnny Football because like he has his feelings that people have targeted him and where his priorities lied at the time. Manti Te'o, the whole point of the documentary is to hear from Manti Te'o because he never got that opportunity. This one, it's like Johnny Manziel is so cocky. We know he thinks he's the shit. He thinks he's the bomb. I wanted to know if his teammates also admired him or did they despise him? Did they hate him? Did they know what was going on? That is so more interesting to me than him signing autographs like at the national championship.
But you know what was interesting? That who was in this doc, not a teammate, not Kevin Sumlin, but Cliff Kingsbury was in this doc.
Yeah.
And again, offensive coordinator for his freshman year. I was dumbfounded to see him. Number one, he looked so much older. He looked not well versus like 2 years ago. But putting that aside, he was just spilling guts. And he's a guy that just got hired as an offensive coordinator, was it USC or somewhere out west? Like, he's probably going to try to get a head coaching gig soon. You're doing this versus a Kevin Sumlin and like probably other people that didn't want to do this doc because of the backlash he'd get. Like, he's just saying, yeah, we let him run wild. Like, if we didn't, then he would suck. So we just let him do whatever he wanted. I was just shocked to see that's a great part of the doc. Just seeing him like not hold back.
Coaching staff was good. Like that's a good perspective too. Like how do we treat this person who is literally carrying the program into heights never even imagined, and like, do we try and contain him or do we let him do his thing because he's brought us so much success? And it's also the complicated fact that he's a college kid. He's not a professional athlete and how they are profiting off him. That is interesting. And I think it says a lot that Cliff Kingsbury did this, right? Compared to like a Kevin Sumlin. It tells me a lot. Maybe the relationship between Cliff Kingsbury and Johnny Manziel is actually pretty strong right now, I would say, compared to like a Kevin Sumlin, because Manziel has been promoting this doc on his social media. He's been like highly anticipating its release. He's been trying to jack all the audiences up for it. And Cliff Kingsbury, I think he's like a young, hip dude, right? I think he looks at this as like trying to like prop up his brand a little bit. I mean, like I feel like he is on the downturn, but with his head coaching performance of the Arizona Cardinals these past few years, I feel like he just like doesn't care. He wants to like, I don't know, just like seem cooler to audiences. I think that might be a factor too. But for me, I just thought Manziel and Kingsbury are closer than Manziel and Sumlin. I think that relationship fell apart.
Yeah, definitely. And like some of the things I wish they went deeper on was like one, like the Scottsdale house. Like he's like with his friends and like they're drinking, not him, but like other people were drinking. Like what's his like personal life right now besides golfing in the rain with his dad and having friends over at a sick house that's definitely in the millions of dollars. Like, so he still has a lot of money. Like, I would like to know more about that. What else do I have here? I have like, I really
Wait. I want to talk about that too, because I found that because that's where they start the documentary and that's where they end the documentary. But you're right. We have I think he
no
owns a
idea.
restaurant and bar in Texas, but that's not touched upon whatsoever. And it also was a sense of that this is where we're at. Like nothing has happened. That's why I was thinking this is bad if you're like a Johnny Manziel fan and you're seeing that basically he's a loser. He has nothing to do now. Like it was exactly what you feared. That's happening right now for Johnny Manziel. You wait another decade, maybe something is like generated in terms of momentum where it feels like, okay, at least we end in a better place than like the darkness that Johnny was in during that portion of his NFL career. I just felt like it was just depressing to watch him sitting with a Stella, watching his friend smoke next to him, and then he's wearing a bucket hat while we're trying to like reminisce on the golden days. Like it just felt so sad.
Yeah, like he's clearly not a loser though. That's just obvious. But it just did have
He's,
those vibes.
I don't know. Like he's kind
Dude,
of
like
a loser. That's what I'm saying. Like I
he's
look
clearly successful. Like
he was successful. What's
right,
he
but, but
successful
like
now?
he's got to be doing something right now. That's what I'm saying. But he didn't say anything, so it's just odd. And he lives in Scottsdale, but he has bar and restaurant in Texas. I don't know. But yeah, like
Living off that first round money. That's what's happening.
yeah, but like again, like he's not like he went on a $5 million bender. Like that money's not that much left after that first contract. And then he didn't get a second one, obviously. So I want to know how he still has money. And it's not the oil money, which we found out was fake, which is awesome, by the way.
I imagine it's like the Heisman Trophy winner that has no future in the NFL, like owns a restaurant or a bar or owns a car company right by the school and then like profits that way. Like Johnny Manziel will be fine, but still it rubbed me the wrong way because like even his attitude towards it where he's like, I never thought I was going to make it to the NFL. I never thought I was going to be a star quarterback in college football. I'm like, dude, if you reach those heights in the NFL, like if you're that good, no one thinks they're going to be there. Right. It's all about the drive and it's all about the attitude. That's where I was just like sad because I thought like there was more competitive nature in him than he was leading on because it seemed like he just gave up. That's like the attitude I got from it.
Yeah, and it was so weird because like you hear all the other people saying like, oh, he was driven to win, like I'm getting the next touchdown or we're winning this game, things like that. And it's just like out of nowhere, he's like, oh yeah, like I just don't really like football. Or like
Yeah.
I don't like NFL. I'm like, yeah, of course, but like still, that's why I think the doc didn't do a good
The
job
NFL
depicting
part,
it.
like they didn't even like talk to his teammates there. They didn't dive in. It was a
That
really
would have been
short segment.
crazy.
I'm like, how can we talk about him like skipping practices, zero film time? Why don't we talk to one of the quarterbacks that he's working with, the quarterback's coach for the Browns? Like, can we get a little bit more insight? You know, I just thought it could have been a little bit more detailed, I guess, in terms of it was just really focusing on him and his friends and those relationships and how he made money in college when he wasn't supposed to. And that to me is like not the crux of what I wanted from it. Like I was fine living with the YouTube clips. And as much as I wanted it, it just wasn't done the way I wanted to see it, you know, and maybe it just wasn't time to make a Johnny Manziel documentary.
Yeah, and like I think that's a big thing because it just seemed like the Manti Te'o one. We had all the details, we have everything where Manti Te'o's at. That's a conclusion, even though it's, obviously he has a long life to live. But that story, like, it's pretty much sealed, signed, sealed, delivered. You know, this one, there's so many questions, and
Yeah.
I some other things I was like really kind of like puzzled with at the doc. Like, obviously it was only an hour 12 minutes, but like it kind of just left doors open throughout, like recruiting. They focused on him, like wanting to go to Texas, got an offer for Texas A&M. I want to know other stuff about the recruiting. This guy has 76 touchdowns in one season, and you're saying that, and like there's the Oregon story about he was recruited to be a safety. They didn't include that, like being too small. Like there's so much details that you just left out in the recruiting. They, and I think A&M, it's kind of saying where they were as a program. They said as a school, yeah, but like them going to the SEC, that's all they said. Like I feel like you skipped that. He was a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
Like
They didn't even bring that up.
they
Like he
didn't
wasn't
bring
a
his
true freshman that won the
year.
Heisman.
Yeah, like so like I was just like, you skipped a year of college, okay, fine. And then you don't, after the Alabama game, you kind of just skip the rest of the season to the Heisman Trophy showcase. I'm like, oh, so what happened here? And in the second season, you skipped after the Rice game, they skipped the whole season. So
That's
it's
the
like
thing.
they
Yeah.
kind of just like kind of pick and chose their spots with their runtime, sure, But it just felt like there was so many doors just left open.
Don't tell me that red shirt year Johnny Football wasn't partying his ass off. Like don't like that
Right.
might have led to like the person that he became later on in his college career. And what I think they did capture well is that first year he was in the 2 years he played at A&M, like before he got drafted, he was the most electrifying college football athlete. Like it wasn't even close. Like he was must watch. They got that so it was accurate. But what they also got right is that I loved him that first year when he beat Bama. That moment will live on in sports history, not just college football. That's one of the greatest moments of the 21st century. And it wasn't a college football playoff game. It wasn't a bowl game, but Bama at its height, at its peak, Saban peak of his powers. And then Johnny Football taking him down, this no-name kid who's undersized and doesn't play a traditional game. That was like fairy tale stuff. Amazing. One of the most memorable moments. I won't forget watching that game. But that second year, when like this stuff came up about the autographs, I never thought it was as big as it was, and that was a shocking moment. But the sister came on, Manziel's sister, and said Johnny wasn't the same after he won the Heisman, and that's where my fandom of Johnny Manziel switched as well. Where I watched him in that Rice game, and he was supremely unlikable because he was unknown in that first year. I rooted so hard for him because I wanted his name out there. But once he got that Heisman, and once he got his name out there, and that cockiness level, like exceeded to a point where like he was bigger than Texas A&M, I just stopped liking him. And he was doing like the money sign. I like now I'm seeing the money sign. Like this guy is like literally like he is making money off the field. Like he's literally telling us that he's making money off the field. And it's just he just came off as so unlikable in that second year. And it just felt different from year one to year two. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I completely agree.
That Rice game, dude.
That I was gonna say the Rice game is what changed because that's when the money sign was introduced. The half game suspension, which was a complete joke. He was getting unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. That was another thing. Like they Netflix hit all the notes that we wanted to see, like from our memory, like the money sign, the Alabama game, like the juggle play, like on that drop in the red zone there. Like they literally like all the pictures, the famous like the talking to the cash, like I can't hear you, I have so much money in my hand, like all those like clips that we see in the pictures, the Scooby Doo, like they covered everything, and
All the highlights.
all the highlights, all the oh my god that moment, oh my god that happened, that picture, that video, that highlight, they did attack every single one, and that is massive. So for a documentary to do, especially in that runtime, so that is impressive to me because Johnny Manziel in those 2 years, and then obviously the rehab, the girlfriend abuse court is 2 year sentence issue thing, all of it, the Drake comments, LeBron collab, like they conquered it all in an hour 12 minutes, and that's the best part of the stock, where the montages, the highlights, and then I remember I watched that first take or something like that.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Maybe it's just a better format if it's not an hour 12. Maybe it's not an Untold. Maybe you do 3 segments that are about 40 minutes each, and then you could tell the chapters of Johnny Football's story. You
Yeah,
know?
like the Arnold doc. That would be probably better.
I just think not like each of them be an hour. Maybe you don't have enough content for that. But like when I'm going to see a documentary about a figure as big as Johnny Football, I'm not just watching to relive glory days. I'm trying to find out things I didn't know. And the one thing I thought, the two things, there was two major things. I've already brought up the selling autographs, how much money he was making. But what kind of ties into that is the BS story his high school friends made up that his parents came from oil money. And the fact that you had Skip Bayless, Colin Cowherd, Stephen A. Smith going on national television, consistently repeating this, I'm like, how did everyone fall for this? How is everyone this stupid? And this goes in the age of social media, word spreading, and then like getting word to the right people, and people having so much faith in what these people on TV say, what these reporters say, and then these insiders that everyone just buys in. To me, that's absolutely bananas. And I would love to see the reaction of Skip Bayless watching this documentary in time, finding out that was all bullshit. That is crazy that escaped. That was the most shocking part in my eyes because that was such a big deal back then.
That was that. I think the memorabilia signing footballs in Miami, that might have been the best part of the doc. Like that was awesome. And his friend, that friendship's over. That ended when he
Yeah.
went to the draft. That was, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Did not see that coming. And I was gonna say another important part that I don't know, I just never thought of is freshmen not allowed to speak to the media. Yeah, this makes sense. That, like, take advantage of that. That is massive. That makes complete sense why some of the stuff just got swept under the rug and why he
That's
never had
probably
to
why we like Johnny Football so much. We
yeah.
didn't hear from him,
Yes, and then he never had a quote unquote answer to his crimes or like answer to his actions.
It adds a little more mystique too. If from him, all you do is watch him play. And that
Right.
first year, he is not obnoxious in your face as he is year 2. He was supremely likable. Everyone after that year wanted a piece of Johnny Football. He was the story in sports. Drake is literally partying with him, and Drake is rapping about Johnny
Calling
Football.
him as his friend.
Yeah. And like seeing the documentary, him like calling him, saying like he'll always be there for him. I'm like, well, you're not in this documentary. I'll tell you what, Drake. I'll tell you, Aubrey, you're not in this goddamn documentary. Any other things that shocked you in this documentary? Anything you wanted to bring up before we kind of close out?
He's so popular, had to take online classes. That is wild. Like, as in Johnny Football just not going to class. That's just scary. I think another thing I wanted to mention was the agent. He looks amazing. Eric Burkhart, whatever it is. He looks amazing coming out of
He brought that energy to that.
Yeah, he's but like, if I had to pick a winner of the documentary, it's him. He looks amazing. Will do anything for your client. Could deal with any crap shoot there is. Like, he looks like, if he's still in business, which I'm guessing he is, he probably, like, he's obviously no Drew Rosenhaus or anything, but like, he's gonna get more business just because of this doc. So I think he's the clear winner. But some of his quotes were just hilarious, like the fake heart issue from the hospital, the 0 hours on the iPad, then Johnny Manziel the next scene saying, "Yep, that confirmed it." That was just chaotic. That was psychotic to hear that. Just all this other stuff, just that from the agent, and like kind of like going into the draft. That and like the memorabilia were like the two best parts for me. And obviously, like, seeing the clips, the high school clips. I'm addicted to those high school highlight videos, like Tavon Austin, Johnny Manziel, all those, great to watch. But yeah, those are like kind of the three standout spots that were the strengths of the stock.
Yeah, the Burkhart part I wanted to touch on a little bit. He is a big name NFL agent. He's not Rosenhaus, but he's a big name. Like Johnny Manziel was a high profile like player to like have as a client back when he was trying to get drafted. Like, and this guy is a big personality that doesn't seem like he's afraid to stick it to Manziel, and he's not afraid to fire him and be like, I can't work for you anymore. Like, this is over. But and he doesn't seem to have much of a filter, and almost has like that Drew Rosenhaus energy. If you've ever listened to a Drew Rosenhaus interview, like Drew Rosenhaus, like those guys are supremely confident. Like, if they have to be, because they have to be able to tell these people, these players, these amazing athletes what's what. And they have to tell them, like, this is what your contract is going to look like. This is what's best for you. No matter how good you think you are, this is what you are going to get. And he is the guy who's just going to tell Johnny Manziel, and he's going to like say, you are effing up. And that's how it came across in the documentary too. And a guy, that heart attack thing that he told his dad to fake before the draft, I'm like, oh my God, the lengths that agents go to, in order to get their money, because Manziel, he had that don't give an F attitude, but that doesn't fly when you have an agent trying to make money at the same time. So I can't believe he put up with him like through the draft. I thought it was over the line. I just respected the Eric Burkhart hustle, but I also said it's just a little too much to be faking heart attacks.
The no receivers, because you got them all too effed up the night before. Like, and you had to use like all the age, like anyone else, non-football players. And then Johnny Manziel was like, I killed it. I'm like, how is that possible? That like these people like Eric Burkhart were just running routes and like people weren't like suspect about it, or like, oh, like that's not game speed, that's just like slow motion, because these guys would probably run over a 5.0 40 versus a 4.3 guy running your routes,
Yeah. And Ricky, I remember watching that workout. Look, I remember he was in the black shorts and like, he had the helmet on. I remember literally watching the Manziel workout on ESPN, because it was like breaking news, Manziel right now. And then they had cameras there everywhere. It was the most high profile workout prior to the draft, because people were arguing that he should be the number 1 pick.
Dude, the shoulder pads workout, the pro day.
Yeah. Crazy.
They didn't talk about that, but like they showed it. Like, he wore shoulder pads to his pro day.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Wow.
And like George Bush was there. Like what?
Yeah, dude, he was the biggest thing in sports. But it was just it didn't come full circle. It's just like, yeah, this happened, and then now I do nothing all day. Like there are some things where you can have like a tragic story, and then like there's some way to come full circle, or it's like I'm playing in this other league, or I'm coaching now. No, he sits around and parties by the idea of the documentary. It just didn't put a end cap on things in any type of manner, and that makes me think maybe this documentary shouldn't have been made.
I think it needed more time. Like versus, like I said, the Manti Te'o doc I think is much better than this one. I think this one's fine. I just think you're right. It's just we needed more time with this one to let the story play out more and see where we end up. Like clearly, like he just got diagnosed with bipolar like 2 years ago. Like it's not like he's clearly still like going through things. Like it's Manti versus Manti Te'o, where it's like he's moved on with his life and he can look back on that properly. Like because that 10 years is a different 10 years versus Johnny Manziel.
Right. Yes. And like you can't let the Manti Te'o thing go by with too much time because like people might forget about it, right? Manti Te'o was a big name, but like on the field, he was a Heisman Trophy candidate, but he's not Johnny Football. Like Johnny Football, like the story of Manti Te'o took the world by storm. But I think like Johnny Football went on for years. It wasn't just in the now, in the moment. So you had to do the Manti Te'o a lot sooner. And I would also say I guess they wanted to like cap off the documentary saying like he reunites with his dad. But that really was they didn't plant that seed too well in my eyes during the documentary. Just really care about it. Like, yep, that's a good place to end. But I thought it was good to actually hear from his parents because like they seemed like they couldn't control their kid. That's just how it came off, you know? And it seems like the dad was also a partier and he kind of took accountability, but also like when you're listening to him speak, you're like, I kind of see how like compared to some other athletes and you see how they come up, where they come from, like he just doesn't have that laser focus as a parent. And then Johnny Football was able to run free. I just didn't think that was a great way to cap it off with them getting back together with them playing golf.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
threw that storyline at the end, the last 5 minutes, saying, "Oh, his parents kind of left him, his friends bailed on him, he ended up doing drugs, substance abuse," and then 5 minutes later, it's like, "Oh, he showed up at the door, they're fine." It's not like something they weaved into the storyline throughout this documentary, like you said.
Yeah.
So, totally agree with you. A couple of stupid comments here. One, holy crap, everyone's rich in this. The parents rich wherever they were, wherever it was their house or that restaurant,
Spacious.
wherever the setting was, just spacious, beautiful. They are rich. It might not be oil money rich, but they are rich. Yeah, and then my other thing is just some of the camera angles of these interviews. Like some of them are like think about the one with his friend, the one that kind of was the business partner with the memorabilia signing footballs thing. Like it was just a close up on his arm the entire time. And then
Yeah.
you have other ones like the Eric one, Eric Burkhart one. The camera's basically on the ground looking up at him when he's on a stool.
Yeah, like
Like
trying to see through his pants. I'm just
yeah,
like, dude, he's not on a mountain. Can we just like, can we just have? Is this a Smurf filming him right now? What's going
right.
on?
So I don't know. Like obviously in a documentary interview style, you don't want them looking at the camera unless you're gonna do like a Deadpool pan, right? Talking to the audience. But like here is just there's some questionable imbalances with the camera angles that were not uncomfortable, but just to me just off.
Just odd decisions.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Johnny Football, Untold.